Hi, so I thought I would just talk about how bedtime stories can help people to sleep. So something that I do quite a lot is create bedtime stories for adults and for children to help them to fall asleep. And how it works is that the bedtime story itself takes over some of the issues that people who struggle to fall asleep have. So often people who struggle to fall asleep, they lie in bed and they start going over things in their mind over and over and over again. They just keep talking to themselves and their mind doesn't shut up. And because their mind doesn't shut up, they then end up obviously not sleeping because they're too busy talking to themselves. And for some people that can be really emotional rumination. So not just talking to yourself about nice pleasant things, but talking about things that have quite an emotional, maybe anxiety inducing impact. And part of the reason for this is that you've spent the whole day perhaps ploughing on, doing work, doing all sorts of other things, and yet now is a time when you're lying there and you've got no distractions. You've got nothing else for your mind to be absorbed in. So what happens? Everything that you perhaps could have been thinking about, maybe have been thinking about during the day, but not been able to pay it your full attention, is suddenly there. And you have to deal with that. So when you use a bedtime story, what it does is it gives you something to focus on. So it gives you, rather than focusing on that talking that you do to yourself, you focus on visual imagery, you focus on listening along to a story. And so you're focusing on those things instead. And because you're focusing on those things, it's stopping you focusing on that stuff that's going on in your brain. It's stopping you focusing on all the worry. It's stopping you focusing on talking to yourself because you're busy focusing on what you're being guided to focus on. So if I talk about rowing down a river towards finding a lost city that's going to be in a jungle, and I talk about the sound of rowing down the river, and I talk about what it feels like to have the oar passing through the water as you row down the river, and I talk about hearing bird sounds up on the shore, and hearing sounds of monkeys on the shore, and hearing other natural sounds, and feeling the breeze on your face, and maybe the odd splash or spray of water on your face. If you're engaged in what I'm talking about, you're so busy thinking, right, I'm going to focus. You're not consciously thinking this, but you are as a whole being. You're focusing on spray of water, feeling and the sound of the rowing, sounds of birds up on the shore, sounds of monkeys up on the shore. You're thinking about all those things. What you're not doing is having that in the background whilst you're worrying and thinking about internal dialogue and stuff like that. So what that does is it allows the natural process of falling asleep to take place. So the natural process of sleep is that you normally go to bed and you have some thoughts to start with, but then you gradually drift into a place where you start visualizing a little bit. And you may not really think about it as visualizing. It's not like you necessarily have a big 3D cinema screen in your mind or anything, but you just start visualizing a little bit. You start having ideas or having a sense of an experience or a visualization of some kind. So you start sort of almost drifting into a daydream kind of state. Then as you're doing that, your body starts to relax. So externally from your brain, because you're not focusing on your body and you're not focusing on tension in your body, it naturally just starts to relax. And then as your body starts to relax, so your breathing starts to relax. And because your breathing starts to relax, you start as a whole being to drift deeper into relaxation. And your thoughts start to become more sort of focused on imagery and daydreamy kind of stuff. And then you drift through different stages of sleep. So what the story does is just helps to give something for your brain to do for that beginning part of the night where you're struggling to actually fall asleep.